Welcome to our journey to understand the Internet. Let's begin by exploring the essence of this remarkable innovation. The Internet is a vast global network of interconnected computers and devices, enabling unprecedented level of communication and information sharing. This network transcends geographical boundaries, connecting billions of users worldwide. Whether you're sending an email, streaming a video, or conducting business online, or watching a course on web development, the Internet serves as the backbone that makes it all possible. Its influence is so pervasive that it has become an integral part of daily life, shaping how we interact with the world around us. How the Internet works. The functionality of the Internet is based on a sophisticated system of data exchange through standardized protocols, primarily the Internet Protocol IP and the Transmission Control Protocol TCP. When you perform actions online, such as sending an email or browsing a website, your data is divided into smaller units known as packets. These packets are sent through a network of routers, and switches that direct them toward the destination. Each packet may take a different path through the network, but they are reassembled in the correct order upon arrival. This intricate process allows for efficient and reliable data transmissions, regardless of distance. The Internet's ability to seamlessly transmit vast amounts of data underpins its role as a vital global resource. To comprehend the Internet structure, it is essential to recognize its key components: servers, routers, and clients. Servers are powerful computers that store and manage data, providing access to information and services requested by users. Routers act as intermediaries, directing data traffic across network to ensure that packets reach their intended destination efficiently. Clients, such as personal devices like computers, smartphones, and tablets, request and receive this information from servers. This client-server model forms the basis of the most Internet interactions, enabling users to access websites, stream media, and communicate online. The seamless coordination among those components enables the Internet to function effectively, serving as a testament to its complex yet elegant design. One of the most significant phases of the Internet is the World Wide Web, a system of interlinked hypertext documents and resources accessible through web browsers. The web operates using the Hypertext Protocol (HTTP), which facilitates the retrieval of web pages and resources hosted on servers worldwide. By entering a URL or clicking a hyperlink, users can navigate from one page to another, exploring a virtually limitless expanse of information and services. The web has revolutionized how we access and disseminate information, transforming industries such as education, media, and commerce. It provides a platform for creativity and innovation, enabling anyone with internet connection to share ideas and reach global audience. The Internet offers a diverse array of services that have fundamentally changed how we communicate, consume media, and conduct business. The email remains one of the most widely used forms of online communication, allowing users to send messages instantly across the globe. Social media platforms enable individuals to connect, share content, and engage with communities worldwide. Streaming services provide on-demand access to a vast library of music, movies, and television shows, reshaping the entertainment landscape. E-commerce platforms facilitate online shopping, offering convenience and access to global marketplace. These services illustrate the Internet versatility and its profound impact on various aspects of our lives, driving innovation and reshaping industries. The Internet influence extends far beyond technology. It has transformed society in numerous ways. In education, online learning platforms offers access to courses and resources from prestigious institutions, making education more accessible than ever. In healthcare, telemedicine enables remote consultations and monitoring, improving access to medical services. The Internet has also revolutionized the way business operates, enabling remote work, digital marketing, and global collaboration. On a personal level, it connects friends and family, fostering relationships regardless of physical distance. However, it also raises concerns about privacy, security, and the digital divide. As we navigate these challenges, the Internet continues to be a catalyst for change, driving progress and fostering a more interconnected world. Hello everyone. Today we're going to dive into the basic building block of web development, the request-response cycle. This cycle is fundamental to how the internet works, allowing your browser to communicate with servers to fetch the web pages you view every day. Let's break it down into easy to understand steps. So what is the request? Let's start with the request. Whenever you type a web address in your browser or click a link, your browser makes a request. Think of it like sending a letter. This letter includes URL, which stands for Uniform Resource Locator, the address of the web page you want to visit, HTTP method, the type of request. The most common ones are GET and POST. GET is used to retrieve data from a server, for example viewing a web page, and POST is used to send data to a server, like submitting a form. And we have headers for extra information such as your browser type and accepted languages. And also have the body, which is mainly used with POST requests to send data like form details. This information is packaged up and sent over the internet to the web server hosting the website. Now, what is a response? Once the server receives a request, it processes it and sends back a response. This is like receiving a letter back in the mail. The response includes the status code, a number that tells you whether the request was successful or not, and the common status codes include 200, okay, this request was successful and the server is sending the requested data, 404, not found, this server couldn't find the requested page, and 500, internal server error, something went wrong on the server. And we have headers like the request. The response includes metadata such as the type of content being sent. And we have body. This is the main part of response, usually containing the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript needed to render the web page in your browser. Let's walk through a simple example to see how this works in practice. Imagine you want to visit a website. You type www.newwebsite.com into your browser and hit enter. Your browser sends a GET request to the server hosting the site that I said previously. The request includes headers detailing what types of response it can handle. Server processing. The server receives a request and looks for the home page of www.newwebsite.com. It processes any necessary data like retrieving articles from a database. Then you have the response. The server sends back a response with the status code 200, OK, indicating success. The response body includes HTML, CSS, and JavaScript needed to display the homepage. Rendering. Your browser receives the response and starts rendering the page. It uses HTML to structure the page, CSS to style it, and JavaScript to add interactivity. Web development also involves optimizing the request-response cycle. For example, caching allows browsers to store some data locally, so it doesn't have to request the same information repeatedly, speeding up the load time of web pages you visit frequently. Conclusion. And that's the request-response cycle. It's a simple yet powerful concept that enables the entire web to function. Every time you browse the internet, this cycle is happening behind the scenes, allowing you to access a vast array of information and services. Alright, I'm gonna end this video now, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome. Today we're diving into the world of web development to explore the differences between the front-end and back-end development. Let's start with front-end development. This is all about what users see and interact on a website. Think of it as the face of a website. There are key technology used to do this, and those are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create the visual and interactive elements of a website. We have HTML, which structures the content. We have CSS, which styles the content, controlling the layout, colors, and fonts. And we have JavaScript, which adds interactivity and is making the elements respond to user actions. And we also have frameworks and libraries, which are front-end developers often use frameworks and libraries like React, Angular, or Vue to streamline their work and build complex interfaces more efficiently. Responsibility. Front-end developers focus on user experience, ensuring the website is visually appealing, easy to navigate, and responsive across different devices. Examples of front web elements, and those are buttons, menus, and animations. Now let's talk about backend development. This is like the behind the scenes part of a website. It's like the engine that powers the front end. And you have key technologies. Backend developers work with server-side languages such as Python, Ruby, Java, PHP, JavaScript that we're going to cover in this course, and Node.js. Databases. They also manage databases using technologies like MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, or Firebase to store and retrieve data efficiently. Responsibilities. Backend developer focus on server logic, database interactions, and ensuring the data is processed correctly. They create APIs, application programming interfaces, that allow the frontend and backend to communicate. How do they work together? When you visit a website, the frontend sends a request to the backend to retrieve and submit data. For example, when you log in, the frontend captures your credentials and sends them to the backend to verify. The backend processes the request, interacts with the database, and sends the appropriate response back to the frontend, which then updates the user interface accordingly. Now that you know the basics, how do you choose between front-end and back-end development? In this course, we're going to cover both front-end and back-end. You're going to be what is called a full-stack developer. But if you enjoy creating visual designs and working on user interactions, front-end development might be the path for you. Back-end, if you are more interested in problem solving, data processing, and building the underlying systems, back-end development could be your calling. Alright, I'm going to end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome to this quick introduction to the fundamental building blocks of web development: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In the next few minutes, we'll explore what each of these technologies does and how they work together to create the web pages you interact with every day. First, let's start with HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is the backbone of any web page. It provides the basic structure and content of the page. Think of HTML as the skeleton of a web page. It defines elements such as headings, paragraph, lists, links, images, and more. Each of these elements is represented by tags. For example, a paragraph of text would be enclosed within the P and P tags. HTML is essential because it organizes content in a way that web browsers can understand and display. Without HTML, a web page wouldn't have any content or structure, making it impossible to present information to users. It's also worth noting that HTML5, the latest version, introduced new semantic elements like article, section, and navigation, which makes the HTML structure more meaningful and accessible. Next, we have CSS. Next, let's talk about CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. While HTML provides structure, CSS is all about styling and layout. It controls the visual presentation of the web page. With CSS, you can change colors, fonts, spacing, and the overall layout of your web page. For instance, if you want to make the headings on your page blue and center them, you can do that with CSS. It allows you to apply styles consistently across multiple pages, which makes managing the design of a large website much easier. CSS can be added directly through HTML through inline styles, but it's more common to link to an external style sheet to keep the HTML clean and organized. CSS also introduced the concept of responsive design, which enables web pages to look good on all devices, from desktop to tablets to smartphones. Techniques such as media queries allow developers to specify different styles for different screen size. Next, we have JavaScript. Finally, we come to JavaScript, the programming language that brings interactivity to web pages. While HTML is the structure and CSS is the style, JavaScript is the behavior. It allows developers to create dynamic and interactive features like sliders, pop-ups, form validations, and more. JavaScript can manipulate the DOM, document object model, which represents the structure of a web page. This means JavaScript can change the content and style of a web page after it has loaded, responding to user actions like clicks, scrolls, and key presses. This dynamic behavior enhances user engagement and provides the richer experience. Additionally, JavaScript has evolved significantly with the advent of frameworks and libraries like React, Angular, and Vue, which simplify complex web development tasks and enable the creation of single-page applications. These tools have transformed JavaScript into a powerful language capable of handling both client-side and server-side operations through environments like Node.js. How they work together. Now, let's briefly discuss how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript work together to create a complex web experience. When you visit the website, your browser receives HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files from a server. HTML sets up the initial content and structure, CSS is then applied to make the content visually appealing, and then JavaScript adds interactivity, allowing you to interact with the page. For example, think of a simple web page with a button. HTML is used to create the button element, CSS styles to make it look attractive, and JavaScript might be used to trigger an alert when the button is clicked. In conclusion, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are essential tools for web developers. They work together seamlessly to build websites that are not only functional and informative, but also engaging and visually appealing. Understanding how each of these technology contributes to a web page will give you a solid foundation in web development. Thank you for joining in this introduction. I hope you have a clear understanding of how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript work together to power the web. Welcome. Now it's time to download and install an IDE, and for this course I'm gonna use Visual Studio Code, which is an IDE made by Microsoft. Now, you may be wondering, what is an IDE? An IDE stands for an Integrated Development Environment, and it's basically a tool that you're gonna use to write our code. And Visual Studio Code is like a text editor, but it's a very sophisticated text editor because it has a lot of features like highlighting our code, showing real-time errors and suggestions. In other words, it's making the process of writing code easier and better. Therefore, let's download Visual Studio Code. So open your browser. I'm gonna open my browser, and in the search bar I'm gonna type Visual Studio Code. And here we need to get to this page, so I'm gonna click on this link, and here we're gonna have code editing redefined, and we have download for Windows. So we have Visual Studio for Windows. If you have Linux or Mac, you should download the Mac OS. You should download the version which is specific to your operating system. So I'm gonna download this for Windows. Now on the top right hand side, the downloading is started, and it will be completed in a few moments. Alright, the downloading is finished. Just open this file. I'm gonna close the browser. I'm gonna accept the license agreement. I'm gonna click on next. This is the default location where Visual Studio is gonna be installed. I'm gonna keep the default location. I'm gonna click on next. Next, and let's also check this to have a shortcut on the desktop. So I'm gonna click on next and install. Now Visual Studio is gonna be installed on my computer. Alright, now the installation is finished. I'm gonna click on finish, and now Visual Studio Code is gonna open. And there is one more thing to do, and that is to click on the left hand side here on those cubes. So let's click on this, and also make sure to have those extensions installed. So you're gonna search for those extensions here, because in your case they're not gonna be already installed, but for me they are already installed. So I'm gonna type here prettier, and you're gonna click on this button which is gonna say install. So it's gonna be on the right hand side here, and we're gonna do the same thing for the next ones, which is VS Studio Code icons and live preview. The live preview is gonna help us to see lively our code being displayed. This is gonna add some icons to our files, and this is gonna add the color to our code. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here and see you in the next video. Okay, let's dive into a discussion about HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is fundamental to the web, providing the structure for the content of a web page. It's not responsible for the style or presentation. That's the role of CSS, cascading style sheets. Nor it is responsible for the interactivity or functionality of the page, which is handled by JavaScript. Instead, HTML is a markup language that uses specific syntax to annotate and organize documents. You can think of HTML as a teacher marking up a student's paper. The teacher adds notes, highlights mistakes, and annotates sections to provide structure and clarity. Similarly, HTML marks up a document to define its structure and meaning. So is this a paragraph, is this a text bold or italic? So what is HTML? HTML or Hypertext Markup Language is not a programming language with complex logic. So we don't have complex logic. It's not a programming language. There are many jokes with this thing, and you can see this one now here. Instead, it's a markup language designed to structure the content on the web. This structure allows browsers to interpret and display the content in a meaningful way. HTML was created in 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee. then a scientist at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, and it was initially developed to help researchers share scientific documents on the emerging World Wide Web, which was the internet at that time. These documents required a standard format to include various elements like headings, paragraph, list, links, and other textual features that allow that you typically find in a research papers. As you can see on the screen, like this one that we have here. So we have this text in bold. We have those bullet points here. So this is like a list with bullet points. We have, as you can see, we have here a paragraph, then we have some space, and we have another paragraph, and we have this text in bold and italic. So those are you can achieve the same thing in HTML using, as you'll see, elements. Now let's bring back that text. Over time, as the web grew beyond the scientific community, the use of HTML expanded, and people began to see the potential of HTML for creating not just scientific papers, but also web pages for a wide range of purposes. This led to the development of the additional HTML elements to accommodate various needs. So if initially you had things like list, or you could make the text bold or italic and so on, as the time progressed, people created more elements. We're gonna see what elements are immediately, like images, to incorporate the new purpose of the HTML, which is to create web pages. So that's it. Now, making it a versatile tool for the web development. Now, what are HTML elements? An HTML element is the building block of an HTML document. Each element is a wrapper that defines a specific part of the content. For example, a paragraph is wrapped in a P tag, in two P tags, so be correctly. A link is wrapped in a tag or A tags, and the list is wrapped in a list LE tags, and so on. So these elements help to structure the content in a way that browsers, so the browser in my computer, can understand and render appropriately. So let's say that you want to make this text right here. Let's say that I want to make it bold. In that case, you put angle bracket. I'm gonna put B, and you put another angle bracket, and I'm gonna go at the end here, and now we're gonna use, so we have first the opening tag and the closing tag. So I'm gonna go here, and I'll put the closing tag. And now this is not HTML, because HTML code, the HTML code is highlighted in a different color. This is also this is text, but this is the general idea for creating a HTML element, bold. And you can have, in a real app, you'll have more than one bold element. You'll have paragraphs, you'll have lists, you'll have images, you'll have links, many things which are going to be combined together to create the web page for the user to interact. Alright, I'm going to end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, now it's time to look at the first element that you can use in HTML, and that is a bold element. And first I'm going to create a folder where we're going to put our HTML files. You can put it whenever you want. I'm going to put it in this folder, and I will call this folder, let's call it web development projects. So web dev projects, and I will press enter, and I will double click on it, and I will click add, and here all the HTML files that you're going to create are going to be added. So they're going to be added inside this folder. I will click on add, and that created the folder, as you can see here. And I wanted to pay attention on this button which says new file, so click on that button. I'm gonna call now this file football, so football, and this is very important. Now I'm gonna put that, and we type HTML, and as you can see we have this icon to indicate that this is an HTML file. So because this is a HTML file, it will have the syntax highlighted when we type HTML code and suggestions. I'm gonna have in real time. Alright, so this can be whatever name you want. I'm gonna choose, I choose football because I'm gonna put some text about football, but you can put whatever name you want here, and I'll press enter. And that did two things. It first created this file, as you can see here, we have the icon HTML, and also opened the file for us. Now, I'm gonna open the browser, and I will take this text. And our goal for this video is to make the text at the beginning bold. This is what we want to do. Or if you want, I give you a challenge. After I'm gonna show you how to make the text bold at the beginning, so the word football. I'm gonna give you a challenge to make the football codes also bold. This is the challenge for you. So let's first see how we can do this for the first word. So let's paste here the text. Now let's go at the beginning, and now I'm gonna right click on this file, and I will go here where it says show preview, and I'm gonna click on that, and that is gonna show a preview of the page, of the HTML page that we have currently. So I'm gonna click on show preview, and now we have the text. Football is a family of team sports, that anyway. So we have the text, the plain text that we have here. We don't have any formatting, we don't have any spaces, we don't have any buttons or links or anything, because we have simply some text in a HTML file. And as you can see here by the address, this is not coming from a server, or this can be found on the internet. This is something that we can only see locally on our machine, on our computer. Now, to make this bold, we need to use the opening and closing tags, and we need to use the element bold. And to do that, I'm gonna go at the beginning of the word football. I'm gonna put left angle bracket. I'm gonna push this a little bit in to the right to not replace it. I'm gonna type here B, and now if I put the right angle bracket, as you can see, the closing tag, which is this part right here, let me go back, which is that part, that was added automatically, so we didn't type that ourselves. So if I remove this, and if I put the right angle bracket, and as you can see, this now is added automatically, this part here, the closing tag. Now let's put this word between the tags. So I'm gonna put it here. This we're gonna put the content, and as you can see, you see in real time. You don't need to show this to launch this again. We show this. You see in real time that this now is bolded. So as you can see, we have what we wanted. Again, for you, the challenge is to make also this text at the end also bolded using what we did here. And look what happens if I delete this. Yeah, if I delete the closing tag, now all the text is bolded because it doesn't know where to stop, because here it's the opening tag, so it knows whatever comes after the opening tag, the content is going to be bolded, but we don't have a closing tag to say, hey, stop here, make only this part bolded. Alright, so this is what we achieved here. Let's put here a closing tag, not here, but I'll actually let me put, so let's put left /NB, and B was added automatically. Alright, this is our discussion about the bold element. In the next video, we're going to look at other elements that we can use in HTML, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, now it's time to look at the next element that you can use in HTML, and that is the paragraph element. And the paragraph element is used when you want to group related content together, and that doesn't necessarily mean only text, although that is the case most often, but you can also have images, so other elements like links, forms. So let's see how we can use the paragraph element. For that, I'm going to open the browser. And as you can see, we have here the title, football, and we have those two chunks of code, of text. And those chunks of text are created using paragraphs because we have this space between them. So let's open Visual Studio to see how we can achieve the same thing. So I'm going to go down here. I will put the text. I'm going to press enter. Now I'm going to show preview. And as you can see, everything is bundled together. We don't have any space. We don't have two chunks of code which are explicitly separated by a space. To do that, I'm going to put here the paragraph element, so which is just a p tag, angle bracket, p, paragraph. I'm going to press space to not have the word there replaced, and I'm going to put the paragraph element. So I'm going to have the closing tag. I'm going to copy the closing tag. I'll go on the next line and I will put it here. Now I'm gonna move this text between the tags of the paragraph element. And as you can see, when I did that, that automatically added, as you can see, this space here, as you can see here. Now, we have football. Now, let's see how we can also add the paragraph for this element too. So I'm going to put a P tag here. So P. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go down here and I'll paste that. And now we have two paragraph elements. Now you can push this here if you want, if it makes more sense when you look at it, but if you leave it like that, it will still work, because this is the opening tag and we have the data which is going to be between. Let's press Ctrl Z, and this is good to know that if you mess up your code, you did something like that, just press Ctrl Z on Windows and that is gonna undo the change that you made. Alright, this is the paragraph element. In the next video, we're gonna look at the heading element, the headings elements, because there are more. Okay, now it's time to start a discussion about headings. So what are headings? Headings in HTML are used to give structure to web pages, similar to how headings in a book provide structure to its content. HTML headings, which are from H1 to H6 headings, represent 6 levels of importance, with H1 heading being the most important and typically used for the main title, and H6 heading being the least important. So first we have the main title, which is the H1 heading, similar to the book's title on the cover page. Then we have chapter titles, H2 headings, like the title of individual chapters. Then we have section titles, which are H3 headings, which correspond to major section within a chapter. And we also have 4 subsection titles, or H4 headings to H6 headings, which represent smaller division within sections, like subsections or subsections, etc. Alright, so let's open the browser, because on our Wikipedia page we have headings used, and let's see how they organize this. So we have first the main heading, which is the H1 heading, which is the title, football. Then if you go down, we have the H2 heading, which is a subheading of the H1 heading. And if you go down, you also have another H2, and under the H2 heading here, we have an H3 heading, and under the H3 heading, we have a H4 heading, and so on. So those are, and here we have a H5 heading, which is a subheading of the ancient China heading. So the data is being organized here using headings. Now let's open Visual Studio Code and let's see how we can write the things that we have here. And let me copy this. This is H2, so I'm gonna copy this, but let me actually put first, of course, the title. I'm gonna open Visual Studio Code and I'm gonna wrap this in a H1 heading. So I'm gonna use H1, I'm gonna push that H1, and I will take this and I will paste it here between the tags. So now we have on H1, should be H1, very careful, H1 heading. And now if I show this in preview, as you can see, we have the title here, and you also added this space here because this is a standalone element. It's having its own space. Now let's add the H2 heading. So let's open the browser. Let's copy, let me see, let's copy this, common elements. Alright, I'm gonna go down here and I will type here H2. And I will put this, common elements. Let's put another H2, so I'm gonna go here. Let's copy etymology. Let's press Ctrl D. It's not working. I want to duplicate that line, but I don't know the shortcut. So I'm gonna go down here, another H2. And let's put this etymology. Let's go back here and let's copy this. This is also an H2. And let's also add some text to it. So I'm gonna go down here, H2, the closing tag, and I'm gonna put early history. Now let's add some text here. Let's put a paragraph. Let's put opening tag, paragraph, and we can type here lorem, and that is gonna generate some lorem ipsum code, which is lorem ipsum text, which is just some text which has no meaning. So if I press enter and I fill in that for me, it's gonna add that text. So I'm gonna press enter, and now as you can see, we have this lorem ipsum text. All right. Now let's add a H3 heading. So let's go here. Let's copy this, ancient games. Let's put H3, ancient games. Let's also add some lorem ipsum, P. Let's type lorem. Let's go to the next line. Let's put also an H4. I think this is a subheading of this ancient games. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm gonna copy this. Go in Visual Studio. This is an H4 heading. Ancient China. And as you can see, we see it down here. Alright, so this is how you can use all the headings. Actually, there are more. You can have also a H5 and H6. Those are the 6 headings that you can use. And it's recommended to only have only one H1 heading, because in your web page, the web page is going to have only one title. So it's recommended to only have one H1 heading in your web page. And I'm gonna give you a challenge, and the challenge is to, I'm gonna type some text here. So I'm gonna type book title. I'm gonna put here chapter 1, section 1, section 2. I'm gonna go down here. I'll type here chapter 2. I'll put here section 1, section 2. Let's also add the chapter 3. Chapter 3. And let's put here section 1 and subsection. Let's put 1. Alright, now the challenge is to use what we talked about, headings and how they organize the web page, to organize this in a structured way using headings. So you have the title, you have the chapters, and you'll use headings to organize the text that we have here into. You're gonna give them structure, because now you simply have text here. So use the headings. And if for whatever reason the code that we have here it's making the challenge confusing, just copy the code, delete it, and try to solve this challenge here. And after you finish, you can put that code back by pressing Ctrl+Z on Windows. Alright, this is the challenge. I'm gonna end this video here, and I'm gonna show you the solution to the challenge in the next video. Okay, in this video I'm gonna show you the solution to the challenge that I gave you in the last video, and also I'm gonna show you a tool that you can use in Google Chrome to see the underlying HTML code of a web page. And I'm gonna copy this text. I'll create a new HTML file. I'm gonna call it challenge.html. It's gonna be a HTML file. I'm gonna press enter, and I will paste that text here. Now I'm gonna add the, now I'm gonna show you the solution to this challenge. So I'm gonna put here an H1. So I can type here H1 and press tab, and it will add the closing tag and the opening tag automatically. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it here. So this is H1. This is gonna be an H2. So let's type H2 here. Tab. Let's copy this. Paste it here. Let's put also H2 here. Let's copy this. H2 here. Now let's put here H3. Also here H3. Also here. And also here. Let's put also here an H3. And here I'm going to put an H4. So this is the solution to the challenge. Right, let's show the preview to see how this looks. And we have the book title, we have here it should be chapter. Alright, so everything is fine. This is the solution to the challenge. Now, let me show you the tool that it is gonna show the underlying HTML code for a page. So let's open Chrome. And right here on the page, anywhere on the page, I'm gonna right click, go to inspect, and that is gonna open this Chrome developer tool. And here we're gonna see the, if I hover over here, as you can see, the different elements on this page are highlighted. So this is the underlying HTML code for this page that we have here. And you will see this in a different place if you have different settings for the browser, but for me it's on the top right hand side, but you can change the position you clicking on these three dots and choosing one of those options. Now let's one thing that I want to show is that you can click on this button, you can choose an element, let's say football. I'm gonna click on it, and when I click on it, it's gonna be highlighted, and as you can see, we have here H1 and we have football. So this is an H1 football, and we have all other things here, the ID, the class. I'm gonna cover all of those in future videos later in the course. And if I go down here, let's say that I click on this element, let me click on this again. Let me click here. I'm gonna click here, and here you have an H2 element. As you can see, it's called common elements. Let's click again on the H1. So let's click on this button, H1. And what you can do is you can change it. You can go here, and I can type here history of football, and now the title is changed, but this is changed only for me. It's not changed it's not changing the actual site. It's changed only for me. So this is how we can use the Chrome development tool. And as you can see, we have many things here. We have this thing, HTML class. We have this exclamation mark, doc type. We have this head, body, we have this header, we have many things, and specifically this doc type, the head and the body, all of those are gonna be covered in the next video. And also have this, you see this often, div, and we're gonna cover this also in later in the course. Alright, this is the Chrome developer tool that you can use to see the underlying HTML code if you are curious about our website. And I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so far in our videos, all the HTML code that we wrote was valid, so we didn't have any kind of problems. But there is something crucial to every page that we're gonna create, which is missing from our HTML document, and that is the HTML skeleton, or how it's often called the HTML boilerplate. And the HTML skeleton is simply some HTML code that goes in every page that we're gonna create. And there are two ways to show you how this HTML skeleton works. The first way is to type every element step by step, so one element after one element, or I can press shift and I can put an exclamation point, and I can press tab, and we have this thing generated. This is the skeleton. This goes in every page, in every HTML page that you're gonna create. Or I can put an exclamation point, and I can put here, I can press enter, and it will have the same effect. And we can look at every element step by step. Let's start with this element, which doesn't have a closing tag. And what is this? Exclamation point doc type HTML. This declaration that we have defines the document type and version of HTML. In this case, doc type HTML specifies so this is a flag which specifies that the document it's an HTML5 document. I'm gonna cover HTML5 later in the course. So this ensures that the web browser renders the page in standard mode, which means that it will follow HTML specifications and not revert to Quirix mode, which is used for backward compatibility with older web pages. So this is what this tag does. Next we have HTML. We have an opening tag and a closing tag down here. We have this which encloses the head tag and the body tag. So what is this HTML tag, and what is this lang? We have en here. So what is all of this? This tag, let me highlight it. This tag indicates the beginning of an HTML document. The lang attribute specifies that the language of the document's content, in this case, is English, in. The lang attribute helps search engines and browsers to understand the primary language of the document, which can improve accessibility and SEO. Next we have head, which goes inside the HTML tag. So what is the head tag? So what is the head tag doing? This tag contains metadata and links to external resources for the document. The content inside the head tag is not displayed on the web page itself, but is used to provide information about the document. It includes critical metadata, links to style sheets like CSS, we're going to cover later CSS, and scripts, so scripts to links to JavaScript, and other resources necessary for the proper functioning and styling of the web page. Next we have this tag meta, and we have char set UTF-8. So what is this? This, let me highlight it again to know that we're talking about this. This meta tag specifies the character encoding for the HTML document, which is UTF-8, which is a widely used encoding that supports almost all characters from all languages. It ensures that the document is displayed correctly with the intended characters, avoiding issues with special characters and symbols. Next we have meta, and we have this long thing. So what is all of this? And all of this is this meta, let me highlight it. This meta tag provides instructions to control the layout on mobile browsers. The content attribute here specifies that the width of the viewport should be equal to the width of the device, and the initial zoom level should be set to 1.0. This ensures that the web page is responsive and scales correctly on different devices, providing a better user experience on mobile devices. Next we have the title. We have it here. Let's change it to football. Alright, so the title tag defines the title of the HTML document, which is displayed on the browser's title bar or tab. It's important for usability and accessibility, as well for SEO, as search engines use the title to understand the content of the page. Next we have body, and body is outside of the head element, but it's inside the HTML element. So we have the body, and the body tag defines, so let me highlight it, the body tag, so let me highlight it like this. The body tag defines the body of the HTML document, where the actual content of the web page is placed, like text, images, links. So all of our HTML code that we have here is going to go inside this body that we have here. So let me copy it. So our code goes inside the body. And we have the closing tag of the HTML, and that is to indicate the end of the HTML document. So let's put the code here. Alright, inside the body. Now let's run this. Let's not run, let's show the preview. So let's show the preview, and everything is fine, everything works fine. So this is the HTML boilerplate. This is in every page that we're gonna create, we're gonna have this HTML skeleton. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, now it's time to look at unordered list and ordered list. The unordered list has its elements being marked up using bullet points, and the ordered list has its elements being marked up using numbers. So let's open the browser to see some lists. I'm gonna use the Chrome inspector, so I'm gonna right click, go to inspect, and let's select from here a list. We have here a list. Let's click on this button, and let's go here, and as you can see we have an unordered list marked by using the tag UL, and we have the list elements being defined inside of it. As you can see, I am highlighting them on the right hand side, and so this is the unordered list. Now let's see an ordered list, which is being marked up using numbers, and I'm gonna go down here because I know that there are some elements here being marked up with numbers, and that is an ordered list. So let's click on this button, and let's select, and as you can see we have an ordered list, and we have the exactly like in the unordered list, we have the common element li, which is the individual element, which is the same in unordered list and in ordered list. They are the same. We have the same tag for defining elements for the list. All right, now let's open Visual Studio Code, and inside the body tag I'm gonna create an h3. So I'm gonna put h3 tab. I'm gonna call it albums. Let's put Eminem albums, and I'm gonna create an unordered list. So I'm gonna type U and L. Let's press tab, and I'm gonna add some albums here. I'm gonna put li to add individual elements. I'm gonna type album. I'm gonna put generic names, album 1, then I'll go down another li, album 2, and another li, album 3. So this is unordered list. Now if I show preview, if I go down here, now we have the unordered list being displayed here using the bullet points, and those bullet points can be changed using CSS, as you will see in future later in the course. So you can change these bullet points in something else. Now let's look at an ordered list. So let's put ordered list here, also here should be ordered list. And now as you can see in real time it's updating, and now it has the numbers 1, 2, 3 being displayed. Again, this also can be changed using CSS, and we can have different numbers here. And now let's see how we can add lists inside lists. So inside the li element, let's add another element. So let's add another list. I'm gonna type also unordered list. It's gonna be an unordered list, and it's gonna have the li. The first li is gonna be song for album 1. Another one, li song for album also 1. Another li song for album 1. Let's do the same for the next one. So I'm gonna copy this to not type it again. Copy, go between the tags of album 2, and I will paste it here. It's gonna be song for album 2, 2, and 2. Now if you go down here, as you can see, we have Eminem albums, we have album 1, and we have songs for this album. Then we have album 2, which is this is the order list. We have the albums being an order list, and then we have the individual songs inside the albums, which are created using unordered lists. Alright, this is our discussion about unordered and ordered lists, and you can play with this to get comfortable with what we talked about. You can play, you can add more elements to album 3, you can add another list inside the list that is defined here. So I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to continue our discussion about elements, and in this video we're gonna look at one of the most important and often used element in HTML, and that is the anchor element. The anchor element is used to create hyperlinks. So links to different websites, links to different email addresses, and even links to the same page but to a different location. But before we do that, let me show you how we can format this code to make it look more beautiful. And for that I'm going to press Ctrl-Shift-P to open this window. I'm going to type format, and you choose format document, and you press enter. And for whatever reason that is not working, another alternative is to right click, go here where it says format document with. So I'm gonna click here, and this way of formatting with prettier is not working. I don't know why. Previously it was working, and in my case I'm gonna choose format with HTML language feature, and that is gonna format the code. But if for you this is working, you can use that, but I'm gonna use the second option. So I'm gonna click on that, and now as you can see the code is formatted beautifully. And now you can see where you have a paragraph or the paragraph ends. Now it's looking more beautiful and easier to understand. Alright, let's create an anchor element up here. I'm gonna put left angle bracket A, and I'm gonna call it this is a link. Alright, let's show preview. And we have this is a link, but as you can see this is not clickable. We can't click on it. Why? This is because we forgot something which is extremely important, and that is we forgot to provide a destination for the link, so where the link is going to take us after we click on it. And to define the destination we need to use an attribute, and the attribute, as you can see I put the cursor here, the attribute is going to go between before this angle bracket, but not after the angle bracket, because that is the content, that is the name defined there. Here we're going to type href, so before the angle bracket, href. We have a suggestion, we press enter, and here we're going to define the address, which is www.google.com. Now as you can see this is highlighted, it's blue now, and it has this underline. So now if I click on this, we get file not found. This is because it thinks that we are inside a file, so it thinks that you want to go to the next file. So it thinks that you are inside the file, and then after we click on it, it thinks that you need to go also in a file. So because we are in a file, we can't go to this address. In order to solve that, you need to use the HTTP protocol. And to use the HTTP protocol to say explicitly that this is gonna be the Google address, we need to put here HTTP : // Let's go back. Let's click now. Now it's opening the browser. I'm going to choose Microsoft Edge. You can choose whatever you want. I'm going to click just once. And now if I click on this link, and as you can see, it's opening the Google page, because now it's working. Now it doesn't think that we are inside a file. Previously it was. All right, let's go back here. Let's close this. Okay, I'll create a file. I'm going to call it about us .html and press enter. I'm going to add a skeleton here, press enter. I'm going to put h1 here, not here. So inside the body, a h1. And it's going to be called about us. I'm going to go inside football. Now I'm going to change this to about us HTML. Now if I show preview and if I click here, it takes us to the about us file, and you can go back. You can create another anchor, and that is going to take us back. I'm going to end this video now here and see you on the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at the next element that you can use in HTML, and that is the image element. And the image element is used, not so surprising, for displaying images. One very important aspect about the image element is that the image element doesn't have an opening and a closing tag. So we don't have any kind of content between the tags of the image, because we don't have two tags. And if you think about this, has some sense, because what is the content of the image? Is the image itself. So this is why you don't have any kind of content to the image. Now to create an image element, we simply put left, I'm going to put it inside the body tag. I'm going to type image, img. Then I'm going to put right angle bracket. Now, to have the image displayed, you need to tell to the image element to render an image, and the image is the image which is going to be rendered is going to be rendered using the attribute src, and src stands for source. So here you need to specify the source location of this image, and as you can see, it follows the same pattern like the anchor element, or you have the link. You have the attribute equals quotation marks and the link. And here I'm gonna open the browser. I'm gonna go down here and I will copy this, let me see, copy image address. I'm gonna open Visual Studio and I'm gonna paste that image address between the double quotation marks. Alright, it's a big link. Now if I show preview, as you can see, now I have the image being displayed here, and it's everything is fine, everything works fine. The next thing that I want to show is that you can change the width of this image. So let me close this. So I can go, let me go at the end. I can type width, and let's put 200. Let's show preview. And as you can see, now the image is smaller, but this is not recommended to do, because we're gonna use CSS to define the width and other attributes for the image. So delete this. Another important thing is that you can specify another attribute which is used for if for whatever reason the link is broken. So if let's say that I delete this here and I show preview. As you can see, we don't have the image because the link is broken, and we can define another attribute which is gonna be a description, which is gonna say something if the link that we provided does not work because of the internet connection or because it was changed. So we need to type ALT. So this is another attribute. I'm gonna type the image with a football player. Also, this is used for accessibility, which is very important. It's used for accessibility for people who can see. So people who can see, when they navigate through our page, they're going to use a screen reader, and the screen reader is going to read what we define here, so the text, and it's going to read that text for them to understand what is on the page. So now if I show preview, now it says the image with the football player. So this will be shown if the link is broken, and also it's going to be shown it's going to be read out loud for people who can't see. All right, this is our discussion about the image element. You can play with it, you can define other links, you can try to provide a link from your machine to see how it works. All right, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at the difference between inline elements and block lever elements. So in HTML, elements are categorized as either block lever elements or inline elements based on their display behavior and how they interact with other elements on the page. And the block lever elements always start on a new line. They can take up the full width available by default, stretching out to the left and right as far as they can. They can contain other block lever elements and inline elements. And examples include, as you'll see, H1s to H6, unordered list, order list, the li element. So those are block lever elements. Next we have inline elements, and they do not start on a new line. They flow within the content, and they can take up only as much width as necessary, and they cannot contain block lever elements, but it can contain other inline elements. And examples include image that we looked at, the bold element, and we're gonna look at also the span element in these videos. Now let's open our page, and with those definitions in mind, let's see what are the inline and block lever elements. Now I'm gonna open this with Chrome because I want to inspect to see the HTML code. So I'm gonna open that, and I will bring that here. All right, now I'm gonna right click, inspect, and I'm gonna click on this button, and let's highlight. So first we have the image, and this is an inline element because, as you can see, it only takes as much space as it needs. So it takes only this space which it needs to appear on the page. Next we have the anchors, and if you click on the anchor, as you can see, the anchor only takes as much space as it needs, and the next anchor element is placed next to each other, so to this other anchor element, so they are happy to share the same space because they are inline elements, so they stay next to each other. But if you go to H1 element, the H1 element, as you can see, it's a block lever element because it takes the full width that is available here. It takes this whole space. And the same with the paragraph. The paragraph is a block lever element. This is a block level element, block lever element. The H2 is also a block level element. So all of those are block lever elements. This is also block lever elements. So this is the difference between inline elements and block lever elements. It's not too complicated. It's just how they manage the space that is given to them. So this is what is the basic difference between the two. Now let's open Visual Studio Code, and let's look at the div element, because we're going to use the div element a lot in our code, because the div element is a generic container of elements, and you use the div element to group other elements with each other. So I'm gonna type div, I'm gonna put right angle bracket, and I'll press enter. And inside the div, because the div, as I said, is a container of elements, I'm gonna put our two anchors here, and the div element is a block element. So even though previously the anchor elements, you saw that they stay next to each other, if I run this now, show preview, let's click on this link. As you can see here, let me go back. So let me show preview again. As you can see now, they are on the next line, and they don't take the width which is available here, because now they are a block level element, because they are inside the div, which is a block level element. So they take the full width that is available because they are inside the div element. Now let's look at the next element that we can use. And now we may be wondering, but why I should use a block level element when I can simply have the anchors elements without the div? So why I should use the div element? The div element is used, as I said, to group elements together, and as you will see when we're going to start a discussion about CSS, we use the div element to create containers which can be styled. For example, if I open the browser and I'm gonna right click to inspect, now if I go with the, I'm gonna click on this button, and if I go here, as you can see, this whole entire thing that I selected now is a div, as you can see on the right hand side, and because it's a div, we can style all those cards together, and it has this nice border, as you can see here. So this is how this is why you'll use divs. You'll use divs a lot of time, and you'll use them with in conjunction with CSS to style your page. Now let's look at the span, which is also a generic container of elements, but it's an inline element. So let's open Visual Studio, and to use the span, I'm gonna put left angle bracket span, and I'm gonna put the word family inside the span. And this again can be, because I don't have let's say that I want to make this word red. There is no red element to make this word red, but if I put it inside the span, and then with CSS, and as you'll see with CSS selectors, I can target this span, I can give it an ID, and I can make this text red, because now if I run this, show preview, nothing is changed here, but if I have CSS, I can change that word. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to learn about some more elements that you can use in HTML, and we're going to start with the first one, which is called the horizontal line element. And if you look on MDN documentation, it says that horizontal line element represents a thematic break between paragraph level elements. For example, a change of scene in a story, or a shift of topic within a section. And the horizontal line element is simply going to add a horizontal line between the HTML elements, if you have elements above the line or below the line, if there are any. So let's open Visual Studio, and to add a horizontal line, I'm gonna go above the div element, and I'll type here HR angle bracket, and now we have a horizontal line. And if I show preview, as you can see here, you have the horizontal line being displayed. So if I delete this, look, it disappears, because you don't have the horizontal line. Alright, next let's look at the break, or the BR element, which is called the line break element, which produces a line break in text carriage, and is useful for writing a poem or an address where the division of line is significant. So if you want to add some breaks between the lines, so you let me copy what you have here. So let's copy this, and let's say that I want to let me open Visual Studio, and I will go down here. I'll create a paragraph, and I will put that text here. Let me format the code a little bit. So right click, refactor document with HTML features. Alright, here we have our paragraph. Now if I show preview, as you can see now, this is all in one line, but I want to have it display like this, the way it's looking here. For that, we need to use a break element. So to use a break element, I'm going to open Visual Studio, and I will put a break at the end of each line that I want to have a break. So BR, another BR, another BR, another BR, and as you can see in real time the text is formatted and it adds the space, another BR here. Now it's looking nice. So this is how you can use the break element. Next, let's look at the subscript element, which specifies inline text which should be displayed as a subscript for solely typological reason. And you see an example here. We have a chemical element here, and it's caffeine. And if you want to have the numbers below the baseline like they are here, you need to use a subscript element. So let me open Visual Studio, and let me see where. Actually, let me type HTML. I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna create a paragraph, and here I will type H2O, and here I'm gonna put subscript around the 2. And now if you look in real time, we have the H2O being displayed here, and the number is below the baseline, as you can see here. And you can have another element above the baseline, so you can have text that is elevated off the baseline. And for that I'm going to create another paragraph, and I'm going to put, let's say that I want to show A, let's say A squared. So A squared, I'm going to put 2 plus B squared equals to C squared. Now I'm going to put around the number that I want to have it elevated off the baseline. I'm going to put a superscript tag. So sub should be here, 2 sub, so sub another 2 and another sub here, sub and let's put a 2 here. And as you can see, we have A squared, but there is a problem. Alright, so we have it. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to start a discussion about HTML entities. So what are HTML entities? HTML entities are special codes used to represent characters in HTML that either have a special meaning in HTML, so they are part of the syntax, or are not easily typed from a keyboard, like the pi number or a heart symbol. That is going to be hard to type. Those entities begin with an ampersand sign and end with a semicolon. These entities are used to ensure that characters are displayed correctly in web browsers, preventing issues that might arise if the characters are interpreted as part of the HTML syntax. So let me show you an example. I'll go below of our horizontal line, and I'll type an H2 here. Actually, let's put an H1, and I'm gonna put here 10 greater than 5. And as you can see, the greater sign is exactly like the closing tag, and for that we're gonna have problems. So now if I show preview, we get 10 greater than 5, and instead you should use an entity here to not have the greater than sign, which can be easily interpreted as part of the HTML syntax. We should use an entity here, and for that I'm going to open the browser, and I'll type HTML greater than entity. And I'm gonna go here, and here you have it, greater than entities. Is an ampersand sign, GT, and semicolon. So I'm gonna open the browser, I'm gonna open the IDE, and I will paste it here. Now if you show preview, now you have the same output, but now you are using the entity instead of the character. And this is, and I decided to show you this because you'll see this maybe in your journey, and when looking at someone else's code, or somebody maybe to ask you to use entities, and for that I decided to show you the entities that you can use. Next, let's open the browser and let's search for more to see more entities. So I'm gonna type HTML entities, and I'm gonna go on this link, and here you'll see more entities that you can use. As you can see, you have all those symbols that we have here. So we have pi. So let me take pi. So let's click on pi, and I'm gonna copy this. So it starts with an ampersand sign and ends with a semicolon. So let's open this. Let's copy this, and let's open Visual Studio Code. Let me use a paragraph. Alright, and as you can see here, it's very small, but we have pi there. Let me copy it. Let's put it here to see more clearly. Now you have pi. Let's format the code. Alright, so now we have, as you can see, pi. Let's open the browser again. Let's look at more symbols that you can use. We have a star. Let me see if I can get the heart. So heart. I can't find it, but let me go up. Let's copy this one. So I'm gonna copy this, open Visual Studio. I will paste it here. So delete this. Now we have this symbol. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here, and I will see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to start a discussion about semantic markup. But first, what is the meaning of the word semantic? Semantic means relating to meaning, and semantic markup means meaningful markup. And first I'm going to show you a non-meaningful markup page, and then I'm going to show you a meaningful markup page to see the difference. So I'm going to open the browser. I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to right click, go to inspect to see the HTML code, and I'll go at the top. And first we have the HTML boilerplate, we have the doc type, the body, and if you look inside the body, we have this div page, and this, as it seems, is it contains the whole page. The whole elements are inside this div. And if you go down, you're gonna see an anchor for a link, another div, and another div down here, another div. So we have a lot of divs. So if you look for the first time at this page, it will be hard to tell what each of what is the purpose of each section that we have here, of each element. And because of that, you need to use semantic markup elements, and the semantic markup elements are exactly like divs, but they have a different name. That's all. They simply add meaning for us and also for browsers when the browsers are loading your page. Because you use semantic markup, it will be much easier to get to the elements of your page. For example, if you have a list of links, it will be much easier if those links are inside the navigation element markup. This an element. If instead of putting them inside a div and then looking for each individually. That will take more time. And this is also, let me show you the semantic markup. So I'm gonna go here. Why I go down, I don't know. Let's right click, inspect. And now if you look here, you see an element that we didn't see so far, which is the main element. And this is the, if you want the container, I can put here container, because this contains the whole elements on this page. And if you go down, you have a navigation, as you can see here. We have a div. If I go, let me go down, I should see a footer somewhere. All right, so we have a div, and the div wraps a footer. And inside the footer, usually you put, this is a semantic, this is like a div, the footer that we have here, the element, but this has a different name, and it adds meaning for us, and also, as I said, for the browsers, and also it improves the accessibility for people who use screen readers, because it will be easier to find the specific elements, because we use semantic markup elements. It will be easier to find them, because we say explicitly, hey, this is a main, so main, this is the footer, here you have the content which belongs at the below of the page. So this is how you can use semantic markup, and we're gonna look at those elements in a separate video. We're gonna look individually at them. In this video, I'm just gonna show you a little page that I created using non-semantic markup and semantic markup. So I'm gonna delete this code. I'm gonna paste. This is non-semantic because we have everywhere we have divs. So we have the generic container div. We don't have a main, we don't have a header, we don't have a footer, we don't have anything like that. But next I'm gonna show you another. I'm gonna go inside the, let's go inside the about us. I'm gonna delete this code and I will paste this code here. So now we have side to side. We have first the non-semantic code using only generic divs, and this you saw on the Amazon page. And if you wonder what is this because we didn't cover all of this, don't worry about this for now. This is just for me to show you the little site that I created. We're gonna cover all of that. What is the style? What is those .header, .nav? We're gonna cover all of those when we're gonna start a discussion about CSS. Now, I will click here to show preview. And as you can see, we have my website. You can give it whatever name, and we have divs. We have a div for the header, and it's called header. We have a div for the nav, because here we have the links, as you can see here, one by one. And this is fine, but as I said, it's not specific enough. It's not specific enough about what does each container, each container is doing. So. And also, if you think about, if you worry about what is this class attribute, don't worry for now. Again, I'm going to cover all of those later in the course. But I decided to show you those because I want to make clear what is the difference between non-semantic markup and semantic markup. So this is why I have this attribute here, class, and we're going to see what all of those are later in the course. There is much to learn. So now let's look at this page. So there is now, if I close this and if I show preview now on the semantic page, semantic markup, I'm gonna show preview is exactly the same. So nothing is changed, nothing. Instead of divs, now we have a header, we have a navigation. Inside the navigation, we have our links. Then we have the container, we have our main, we have our side element that you can see on the screen. We have the footer, which is at the below. We have an entity here to put the symbol. So this is how we can use and this is the difference between semantic and non-semantic markup. All right, I will end this video here and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to start a discussion about Yemet. So what is Yemet? Yemet is a built-in tool for Visual Studio, and you can download it for other IDEs that help us write faster HTML code or markup using shortcuts. And if you click on this play button on their page, you'll see some shortcut, and that is going to be expanded into some HTML markup or code. So this now is going to be expanded. It's going to expand this abbreviation that we have here into HTML elements that you can see here. And let's look at the first element, and that is this operator, which is going to nest elements inside each other. So let's open Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it emet.html. I will press enter. That is going to open this file. And I will put here an exclamation point, and I'll press enter. And this is also an emet abbreviation. Now, let's say that I want to create a main with a section. So we are using the nest operator and with a h1. Instead of typing that manually, I can simply type this abbreviation. I press tab, and all of that is generated for me. Let's type this is my website. Alright, so this is an emet, that was an emet abbreviation which expanded into this thing that we have here. And technically, if you put here P, this is also an emet abbreviation if I press tab, but this is just for a single element. Alright, let's look at the next ones. So let's open, let's go down. Now let's look at the sibling or the plus operator, which is used to place elements near each other, so next to each other or adjacent. And let's open Visual Studio Code, and let's say that I want to create 3 paragraphs next to each other. I'm going to type P plus P, should be lowercase p, plus P plus P. Now if I press tab, as you can see, generated all of them next to each other. So let's put some text here. Lorem ipsum, and so lorem ipsum is also here. Alright, so this is how you can use this operator. Let me go to the next line. Let's look at the next operator that you can use. Let's go down. You have the climb up operator, and with the climb up with the greater than operator, you're descending down the generated tree, and position all of siblings elements will be resolved against the most deepest element. And with the climb up operator, we can climb one level up the tree and can change the context where following elements should appear. But this is not gonna be used so often, so I'm not gonna type this. I'm gonna go down to see the multiplication. This is very useful. Let's say that I want to create an unordered list with 5 elements, like in the example that they gave. So let's say that I want to create an ordered list with 5 elements. Again, I can type all of this manually, but I can simply put unordered list. I can put a li here, and I'm gonna put times 5. Now if I press tab, it created an ordered list with 5 elements, and you can put times whatever you want here. You can put here 10, and it will generate 10 elements for the unordered list. This is very useful because it saves a lot of time, so we don't need to type this ourselves one by one. So this is very useful. I'm gonna let it there. Next, I'm gonna show you how you can dynamically add a number. So I'm gonna type here navigation, unordered list with list elements. I'm gonna choose times 5 and an anchor element. It's gonna be 5 anchor elements. I'm gonna press tab, and it generated a navigation. So with an unordered list with 5 list elements, which have 5 anchor elements inside of it, and we have the href here, and we can let's press Ctrl Z. And we can put here the $sign. So let me see what we get now. Press tab, and we have A1, A2, A3. So these are not valid elements. Let's press Ctrl Z. So the syntax to set an attribute is to put here square brackets, and I'll put here href. So I'm gonna target this attribute, and I will put $sign, the number that is going to be generated. So let's put $sign should be, and let's press tab, and as you can see, generated an for the href attribute, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and this can be useful in some cases. Let's press Ctrl Z, and what else you can do is you can put curly braces and you can put text. Let's say this is a link, and now in every between the tags of the anchor element, we're gonna have text. This is a link. Let's press link, let's press tab, and as you can see, we have our href 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and have this is a link, this is a link, this is a link, and this can be very useful in some cases. All right, I'm gonna end this video here, and I will see you in the next video. Welcome back. Today we'll dive into the world of HTML tables. So what are HTML tables? Tables in HTML serve the crucial purpose of presenting data in a clear and organized manner. By structuring information into rows and columns, tables make it easier to compare and analyze data. Historically, tables were not only used for displaying data, but also for designing the layout of entire web pages. This was because tables provided a reliable and straightforward method for grouping and aligning elements on a web page. Although modern web design has largely moved away from using tables for layout purposes, preferring CSS for that role, understanding tables is still fundamental for presenting tabular data effectively. And let's start with the basics. A table in HTML is defined with the table tag. Inside the table, we use the tr tags to define table rows, and within each row, we use td tags are used for table data cells. Additionally, you can use thash tags to define header cells, which usually contains headings that describe the data in the columns below. So here is an overview of the structure. First we have table, which is created using the table tag, which is the container for all table elements. Then you have the table row, which is created using the tr tag, which defines a row in the table. Then you have table data, td, which defines a cell that contains data. And then you have the table header, thash, for defining a header cell, which is typically bold and centered. To illustrate, let's consider a practical example. Imagine we are creating a table to display information about a group of students, including their names, ages, and grades. Each piece of information will be contained in its own cell, organized into rows and columns for clarity. By using tables, we can create a visual representation for this data that is easy to read and understand. This makes it easier to spot patterns, compare values, and draw conclusions. In addition to the basic structure, tables can also be enhanced with various attributes and styles to improve their appearance and usability. For instance, you can add borders to cells, adjust padding for better spacing, and even merge cells to create a more complex layouts. Tables can be styled with CSS to make them visually appealing. In addition to the basic structure, tables can also be enhanced with various attributes and styles to improve their appearance and usability. For instance, you can add borders to cells, adjust padding for better spacing, and even merge cells to create more complex layouts. Tables can be styled with CSS to make them visually appealing and in line with the overall design of the website. You can control the border style, background colors, text alignment, and more. Another important aspect to consider is accessibility. Ensuring that your tables are accessible to all users, including those using screen readers, is crucial. This involves using proper table headers, providing summaries, and ensuring a logical structure that assists with the navigation. Furthermore, tables are not just static elements. They can be dynamic and interactive, especially when combined with JavaScript. We're going to learn later about JavaScript. You can create features like sortable columns, searchable data, and paginated tables, enhancing the user experience by making it easier to find and interact with the data. In summary, while the primary use of tables in modern web development is to display tabular data, their role in history of web design as layout tools is notable. Understanding how to create and manipulate tables is an essential skill for everyone involved in the web development, as it allows for the effective presentation and structured information. As we proceed, we'll explore more advanced features like HTML tables, such as spanning cells across multiple rows and columns, styling tables with CSS, and ensuring tables are accessible to all users. By mastering these techniques, you'll be well equipped to present data in a clear, professional manner. So let's get started on our journey to master HTML tables, an essential tool in web developers toolkit. Understanding tables starts with recognizing their fundamental components and structure. The simplest table consists of rows and columns, but the real power of tables lies in their flexibility. For instance, you can create complex table structure that span multiple rows and columns by using the row span and call span attributes. These attributes allow a cell to stretch over several rows or columns, which can be particularly useful for creating headers that span multiple sections of the table. As we explore further, we'll discuss how to make tables responsive. In today's mobile-first world, ensuring that tables are usable on a variety of devices is a key. This might involve techniques such as hiding less important columns or smaller screens for smaller screens, or allowing horizontal scrolling, or restructuring the table entirely for different screen sizes. Moreover, it's worth mentioning that the importance of semantic HTML. Using the correct HTML elements for tables helps browsers and assistive technologies to understand the content. This not only improves accessibility, but also enhances the search engine optimization, SEO. Finally, we'll touch on the integration of tables with databases. In many web applications, tables are used to display data retrieved from a database. Understanding how to dynamically populate tables with database data is a critical skill for backend developers. To sum up, mastering HTML tables involves more than just knowing the tags and attributes. It includes understanding their history and evolution, appreciating their flexibility and power, ensuring accessibility and responsiveness, and integrating them with backend technologies. With this comprehensive understanding, you'll be well prepared to use tables effectively in your web development projects. So let's dive deeper in the world of HTML tables and discover how can they transform the way we present and interact with data on the web. Welcome back. Now it's time to continue our discussion about tables, and in this video we're going to see some tables elements that we can use. And for this video we'll try to create this table that we have here with person, most interested in, and the age. So let's open Visual Studio. Let's create a new HTML file. I'm going to call it students interest .html and press enter. I'm going to add the boilerplate, and inside the body I'm going to use the table tag. So I'm going to type table, opening and closing tag, and inside the table we're going to add our table elements. Let me open the browser, and inside we're going to add the TD. We're going to use the TD to define an element which defines a cell of a table that contains data. So we're going to use TD. Therefore, I'm going to open Visual Studio Code and I'll type TD. Let's type here name Alex, another TD, interest, let's say books, and another TD for age. Let's put 25. Alright, we have our elements. Now if I show preview, you have Alex, books, and 25. Then this is okay, but if you copy this and add this here, let's put here, let's say Ioana, let's put 21, should be here the age 21, and the interest, let's say computer science. Okay, this is fine, but as you can see, everything is in one line, and I want to have two distinct rows. For that we need to use another tag, and I'm gonna open the browser, and we need to use this tag that is here. Let me see, tr. So tr, which defines a row of cells in a table. So this tr tag is used to group elements, to group cells, to create a row. This is what this is doing. So let's open Visual Studio, and around our cells I'm gonna put tr, opening and closing. I'm gonna copy this, I'm gonna paste it here, the same here, also tr, And as you can see, so should be, I deleted the tag here, TDA. So now as you can see, they are grouped together in distinct rows. We have the first row, then we have the second row. Alright, so this is fine, but we are missing something very important, and that is the headers, because looking at this information we can tell what is this, what this corresponds to. And for that we need to use another element, and that is the th tag. And this element defines a cell as the header of a group of table cells. So this is gonna generate the headers for our cells. So let's open Visual Studio Code, and I'm gonna type here tr, and I'll type here th for the header, name, or let's put person. And as you can see in real time, now we have the header being added, another th for interests, and another th for age. And now as you can see, you have three distinct rows with unique cells. So you have the first cell, the second cell, the third cell. And now we can see that this is the information for the person, this is the name, here is this represents the interest of the person, and this is these numbers that we have here represent the age of those persons. Alright, so this is our discussion about table. Nothing too complicated, just need to know that this is the structure that you have when you create a table. Because without, let's say that I delete all of this, let me copy first, the table in itself without that content, without those elements, doesn't do many things. So they work together to create this thing that you can see here. Okay, I will end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to introduce three straightforward elements which don't do too much. They only divide your code into logical sections, and those are the t-head, t-body, and t-foot. Let's open Visual Studio and let's start with the first one, which is the t-head we use for grouping the headers. So I'm gonna copy the headers and I'm gonna paste it here. Next, I'm gonna use t-body, and this is for the body of our table. So I will take this and paste it here. I'll delete this, another t-body, and I will copy this, paste it here. And if you show preview, nothing has changed, but now you have the markup being divided into logical sections. We know that here you have the headers, here you have the body, here you have another part of the body. So this is what this is doing. And you also have t-foot, but the t-foot is used for not so often. And as you can see, it says encapsulates a set of table rows, indicating that they comprise the foot of a table with information about the table columns. This is usually a summary of the columns. So if you have a summary or cumulative data, you're gonna use t-foot. Alright, I'll end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at the row span and call span attributes. And the row span is gonna expand your attribute along multiple rows, and the call span attribute is gonna expand your attribute across multiple columns. And as you can see here, the name is spans between those two rows, the contact information and email, and the contact information cell is spanning among those columns here, like you can see, email and phone. So if I change that contact information, let's delete this. Now as you can see, it's not spanning across two columns, but if I put this back, now it's spanning across two columns, and the same way here, but the same way here, but this is for rows, so it spans across those rows. So if I delete this, let me show you. Now the name, as you can see, is not spanning across the two rows, but if I put this back, now it's spanning across the two rows, meaning this row and this row. All right, I'll end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to start a discussion about forms. So what are forms? Forms are a collection of elements grouped together whose purpose is to get some information from the user, and that information can be used to search something, to log in the user, to create an account. So you already seen forms. Let me show you the login form of Facebook. So let's right click, go to inspect, and if I open this div, not this one, as you can see, it's highlighted. This div is a form and is denoted by the opening tag form. We have class, test ID, and we have this action. I'm gonna see what this action is. This is very important for the form. And let me show you another form. But before I do that, let me show you. We have the input here. So let's go to Stack Overflow. And here we also have a form, a search form. And if I right click here, go to inspect, we have a form and we have different input types. Text, we have here the type for the text, we have a SVG, we have a div. Those are inside the form, because the form itself is a shell or a container that doesn't have any visual effects. So it's an empty container if you don't put input elements like the text elements, password elements, checkboxes. Alright, so this is, let me open Visual Studio Code. Let's create a new file. I'm going to call it forms.html, and I'll press enter. And if I put exclamation mark here or exclamation point, I'll let the YAML to generate the standard boilerplate. And if I put an h1 here, let's call it forms, and let's put a form here. As you can see, it generated the opening and closing tag of the form, but also added this action, and this is very important. So now we have an empty form here without any elements inside of it. So if I show preview, we have our forms. So we have our h1, but we don't have anything because this is an empty container. Now, let's open this and let's talk about let's talk about the action attribute. So the action attribute, let me go here. The action attribute is used to specify where the form data should be sent. So if I open this, if I type here Java null pointer exception, let me click here that I am not a robot. Let's go to inspect. As you can see, we have the, let me see, we have form and we have action/search. And this is not a page where I can go, because this is relative to the position where I am. So I am inside stackoverflow.com, and we have, as you can see here, /search, and we have question mark Q, and we have our input, our form, Java null pointer exception. So this is an address. So this we are sending our form data, which is Java null pointer exception, our input that we type, to Stack Overflow/search, and we have our form. So you send this to the servers and you want to get something back, and you should see something here. Let me see, should have method, but I can't see it, unfortunately. Have action search. Let me look again. Yes, I can't see it, but there's also something called a method. If I go here, let me go here, and as you can see, method is post, and the two methods that we're gonna use, those are used for HTTP requests, and the methods can be post, so you're sending some data, and get, where you get some data, like in our case, we send our form, Java null pointer exception, as you can see here, and that is sending us back from the servers, is is searching in the databases and is sending us this information that you can see here. So this is how this form works. And if I change this, I can change it directly here, the form. Instead of Java, let's put Kotlin. Now it's using this form. As you can see, we have Kotlin null pointer exception, and this was also highlighted. So let me search again to see. As you can see, we have now Kotlin null pointer exception. We have the results for this form that we typed here directly. Alright, so this is how you can use forms, and this is how you can use the action to specify an address where the form information is gonna go. And I will end this video here, and in the next video we're gonna see the different inputs that we can use in our form, because as you can see now our form is empty, and here we can put something. I can put here slash, let's say login. So this is the address where the form is gonna be sent, to the slash login. Alright, I'll end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to see what goes inside the form element, or the form container or wrapper, and that is the input element, which can be used, is very versatile, so it can be used to represent 20 plus different inputs. Let's open Visual Studio Code, and here inside our forms I'm gonna type input, and I will put tab. And we have type text. You can omit this, and that is a valid HTML code. So if I show preview, as you can see, we have an input. Now I can type something here. So this is the first input, which implicitly has for the type text. So if you don't specify anything, it will implicitly use text. Let's look at other inputs. So let's copy this. Let's go down, another input. Let's put password. Let's put email. And as you can see, you see them here. And if I type something here, we have the text in the input. And here, because this is the password input, the text is gonna be obscured, so we're not gonna see the text. So this is and this is the third input. So those were all valid inputs that you can use with your form. Now, one other important thing that we can use, another attribute, is the placeholder. And the placeholder is some text which is gonna be shown if the input is empty. So if I type here, let's say text, as you can see, we have this here, and if I type something, it disappears. But it doesn't make sense to put for the text the placeholder text, so let's put it for password. So let's type placeholder password, or you can type enter your password, and here placeholder email. So if you go here, if you type something, as you can see, the text is obscured because this is an input password. And if I type something here, the text email disappears immediately after I typed a letter. And there are other inputs. Let me show you. Let's close this. Let's type input, and let's put color, because you can use also color. Let's type let's show preview. You have a color picker, so if I click here, you can pick a color, whatever color you want. We can also have a placeholder, pick a color, but it's not showing. Let me see why. Let's open this, and let's look at other types that you can use. So you can use a checkbox. You have the color picker that I showed you already. We have the date, file, image, number. So for number, if I type here letters, it will not work, but I can type numbers. So you can use this one. For numbers, you have radio button. I'm gonna cover those later. Search, submit, We have text already, so text, URL, week, date, time. So we have a lot of types for our input that we can use in our code. Now let's open Visual Studio Code, and this placeholder is not working, so let's delete this. Let's show preview again, and we have our four inputs: the text, password, email, and the color. And they are, as you can see here, they are inline, so they are inline elements, not because the input is an inline element, they are not block level elements. Alright, I think I'm gonna end this video here, and in the next video I'm gonna look at labels, so how we can add some text before the inputs, which is gonna be shown before the inputs. So it will be shown before here for the text, for the password, and for the email. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to start a discussion about labels. So what are labels? Labels are some elements in HTML used for displaying text which are associated with another element. In our case, we have "Do you like cheese" text, so we have this text being associated with this checkbox. And this is not only helping people who use screen readers, because they will know that this text belongs to this checkbox, but this is also, they are also programmatically associated, linked. So if I click on this text, as you can see, the checkbox is checked and unchecked. That happens because they are programmatically linked together. And if you look here on the left hand side, we have label, we have this attribute for, and we have the text, "Do you like cheese?" So this is the text which is going to be displayed, "Do you like cheese?" And now if we look at the input below, down here you have the ID, so you have the ID attribute cheese, and above we have the label. And how they are programmatically associated, they are associated using the ID. So the input has the ID cheese, and the label is associating it with the input, the checkbox, with using the ID. So it's saying, hey, this label is for cheese, so for the input which has the ID cheese. And it's important to not have two IDs which have the same name. It's recommended to have different IDs for your inputs. Like you can see here, you have another ID. So this is how they are programmatically associated. This is how this label is associated with this. You give an ID to the input, and then use the label and use the for attribute, and you associate that label with the element, which in our case is the input checkbox. Alright, let's open Visual Studio Code, and let's put here a placeholder because I didn't in the last video. Let's call it email, or let's type it username. Alright, now let's create a label. I'm gonna type label. I'm gonna press tab to let Emmet generate that for me, and now it's asking us an ID for which this label is gonna be. Let's give an ID to our username ID. Let's call it username. Let's put here for username, and we're gonna say enter your username. So we have a label for the input that is defined below here, which has the ID username. So we have a label for this one. Now let's create another label. Let Emmet. Let's create it for the password. Let's type enter a password. Let's give it an ID, password, and we have one for email. Let's create also a label here, label, email, enter your email. Let's give it an ID, email, and also have for the color input. let's create a label for this too. Label, color, choose a color, let's give it an ID, color. Now if I show preview, now you have enter your username, and you can type here a username, enter your password, you can put a password here, enter your email, so you can put an email here, and choose a color, and you can choose a color from the color picker. But let's add those the label and the input inside some divs, because as you can see here they are inlined, and I want them to be block level elements. I want them to come one after another in the vertical direction. So let's create some divs. Div let's copy this. I formatted the code. Now let's show preview. And we have beautifully being displayed here the username, Alex, password. Let's put password, enter your email, alex@gmail.com, and pick a color. So you can choose a color. So this is how you can use labels with your form elements. Alright, I'll end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to start a discussion about buttons. So buttons are used everywhere for a variety of reasons, like the login button on the Facebook page, the create account, and the buttons that we saw on Stack Overflow and on other web pages. And the button HTML element, it's an interactive element activated by a user with a mouse, so you can click on it to activate it, keyboard, finger or voice command, or other assistive technology. Once it's activated, then performs an action such as submitting a form, and you're going to see that the default behavior for a button is to submit a form if you don't provide a type, or opening a dialog. By default, HTML buttons are presented in a style resembling the platform the user agent runs on. So here is saying that the button is going to look different on different web browsers. So if you see your button on Mozilla, it will look different from Chrome. Alright, let's open Visual Studio Code. And here I have a button. Let's create it again. I'm going to type button. I'm going to press tab, and I'll type submit. Now if I show preview, we have the submit button now showing here the text that we tap. If I put a different name, it will be reflected immediately here. And if I click on this submit button, as you can see, it tries to go to the login page, which is defined by this action. But because this is not a real address, this doesn't exist, it says file not found. And it does this because, as I said earlier, the button implicit behavior is to submit a form if your button is inside the form. So in our case, the button is inside the form, and because you don't provide an explicit type for it, so if you don't say explicitly that this button is going to be only a button, it will be implicitly assumed to be a submit button. So it will submit the form that we have here to this address that is defined above. So this is what this button is doing. But if I change this to type, look what happens. If I put type button, look what happens now. If I go to show preview, if I click submit, now nothing happens because now the type is a button, it's not a submit button. But if I change this to submit, if I click, it says file not found. So now it's trying to submit the form. And if I did this, you don't need to type explicitly this. So let's get this. Have submit, and if you click on it, again it tries to go to the login page which is defined by the action. So it tries to submit the form. And we're going to see later in the course how we can get this submitted form, this information using our servers and so on. Okay, so this is how you use the submit. And another way to create a button is to use the input. So I can go here, let's delete this. I can type here input. I can type, submit, and this is fine. Now if I click, it will have the same effect. The problem is that if I want to define a different name for this button, I need to type here value. So you need to use the value attribute, and inside the double quotation marks, I'm going to call it, let's say, login. So now if I click on it, it says file not found. File not found. And I prefer the previous one, the button, this one, because it's easier to remember that you can put the submit text between the opening and closing tag. So we have those two actions that with which you can create a button. So this is our discussion about buttons. I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at the name attribute that we can use with our inputs, and let me show you why the name attribute is very important. I'm gonna type here Java null pointer exception. I will search. I'm gonna click there. Let's search again to get rid of this part. Alright, so we have already talked about what we did here. So we made a HTTP request to the form action /search, and we have question mark, and we have this queue. So why we have this queue here, and we have queue equals Java null pointer exception. That is a name, and let me right click here, go to inspect to see the name, and we have input and we have name queue. So this name that we have here is an attribute which is going to be used by the server to which we send the data to extract the data from this name. So whatever value is passed for the name. In our case, is Java null pointer exception. So if you don't specify this name in your input, when you send the data, when you submit the form, the data is not going to be sent to the servers to be extracted there. So this is why it's very important to have names for your inputs if you want to send that data when you submit the form to the server or to the servers. Alright, let's open Visual Studio Code. Now let's show preview. And let's type something here for the username Alex, password 123, email. And if I choose a color, and if I submit this, as you can see, you don't have in the link, you don't have the data. So the data is not sending when you submit the form. When you submit this form, the data is not sent here. And to have the data sent, I'm gonna change this now. I'm gonna close this, and I'll type here name, username. Let me show preview. Now if I type something here, Alex, and choose a color, and if I click on submit, oh, so it should be, let's put Alex at, let's click submit. Alright, so if I type here Alex, here for the password, and let's put Alex at gmail.com. So it wants to have this because you specify here email, and it's looking for an email address. If you don't put the @ sign, we're gonna get later in a separate video, we're gonna talk about how we can control those things. Like if I click submit, it says please include the @ in the email address. So let's put @. Let's click on submit, and now we have username. As you can see here, we have the form, we have /login, username, and we have the name. You have username, and we have equals to Alex. And if I close this, and if I go here for password, and I type name, password, email, let's put here name, to have the whole form submitted, to have all the data being, so to have all the data sent. I'm gonna type here name, color. Now if I show preview, let's put Alex at gmail.com, submit, and we have this big address now. Let's copy this, let's look at it. You have login, you have username Alex, and you have the ampersand sign here, password. This is to unite those different names into a single URL. This is why you have the ampersand sign. You have password, you have email alex@gmail.com, and you have the color, which is some numbers that are numbers are used to represent the color. Alright, so very important. You always use names for your inputs if you want to send that data to a server. I'm going to see later in the course how we're going to extract that data in our server. Now I'm going to end this video and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at checkboxes, radio buttons, and selects. So let's open Visual Studio Code. I'll type here H2. Let's call it more forms. And I will create a checkbox. I'm going to type input, press tab, and I'm going to change the type to checkbox. The name is going to be agree, and the ID also agree. Now if I show preview, I have this checkbox here, but let's give it a label. So let's type here label for agree, and let's call it I agree. And you can put this before or after the input. Okay, let's create another input, also a checkbox. Don't agree. ID don't agree. Let's create a label. For don't agree. I don't agree to the terms. Let's show preview. And we have I agree and I don't agree with the terms, and you can have both checked. Let's also add a submit button, so that, but let's put this in a form. So let's create a form. Let's let Emmet to generate that for me. Form action is going to be /sign up. I'm going to copy this. Paste it here. I'm going to create a button here. Submit. Now if I show preview, if I click on agree, if I click on submit, we get agree on. So the button, the checkbox agree was checked, so it was on. If I change this to I don't agree, let me see what you get. Submit, get don't agree on, so you get don't agree on, so everything works fine. Let's check both. Let's click submit and have sign up agree on, so and then we have on for agree, and for don't agree also have on. This is how you can use checkboxes with forms. Now let's look at radio buttons. So I'm gonna type here again input. For the type I'm gonna type radio, and for the name, actually let's copy this, let's paste it. Let's choose here for the ID sizes, so I'm gonna put here an XS, sizes of, I don't know, shirts, or so M and S. Now if I show preview, we have the radio buttons here, but let's put them inside the divs. So I'm gonna create a div. Let's copy all of this. Let's put also this inside the div. So now we have selected all of them, but I want to have only one selected, and to do that we need to associate them somehow, and for that we need to use the same name. So I'm going to type here size for the name, size, and size. So they are now associated, and if I check, if I click on one of them, the next two buttons are not checked when I click on them. Only one at a time is checked. And let's give them some labels. I'm going to type label for XS. I'm going to say XS. Another label for M is going to say M. Another label for S is going to say S. All right, and let's put here, let me see. All right, let's add a submit button down here. So submit button is gonna say submit, and it's gonna submit the form. Let's choose submit, and you get agree on, and you get size, and you get size 1, but we should get the actual size, and to get the actual size you need to use value. So if you look at the radio button here, we have the name and we have this value, so I need to define this, but because this is the value which is going to be sent through. So let's open Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to type here value, let's say XS, down here also value M, and down here also value. So that is going to be the data which is going to be sent through our forms, and I'm going to put S here. Now if I go back, now if I click on agree and I select here, let's say M, and I click submit, we get sign up, we have agree, we have on, and we have size equals M. So now the data is being sent. And you can try with a different one. If you try with XS, submit, you get size equals XS. So now everything works fine. So this is how you can use checkboxes, this is how you can use radio buttons, this is how you can associate the radio buttons using the name attribute, giving the same name for all of them, so that only one at a time is selected. It will not have all the radio buttons selected at once. So this is how you do it. Now let's look at the select. So let's open the browser, and we have the select, and we have select, and the select is created using the select and option. So let's create first, let's create a label. So let's open Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna type here select, but let's let Emmet generate it. So I'm gonna type select Emmet. The name is going to be let's say year, and the ID also year. Let's create a label for this select label for year. I'm gonna say please select a year. So you have please select a year. Let me push this a little bit, and here we're gonna define our options, and we're gonna say option, and the value is going to be, so this is the value which is gonna be sent through when you click on the submit. So I'm gonna choose for the value, let's say 2019. Let's put here 2019. Let's copy this. Let's put here 2020, 2021 and 2022. So 2020, 2021 and 2022. And now if I click here, now I have 2020, 2021 and 2020. I have please select a year, so this works fine. Let's click on agree, let's choose EM, let's click submit. You have the year 2019, so the value which is defined here was sent true, and you have the year equals 2019. We have the size XS and the agree is on. Alright, so this is how you can use, and you can also make one option here being already pre-selected. So I can type here selected, and 2019 is going to be already pre-selected. So let's change to, let's try to 2020 selected, and now 2020 is pre-selected. All right, this is our discussion about checkboxes, radio buttons, and selects. I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at two more elements that we can use, and those are the range and text area. The range is used to create a slider that you can slide. So let's open Visual Studio Code. Let's create a div. And inside the div I'm gonna type input, and it's gonna have the type range. The name is gonna be volume. The ID is gonna be volume, and let's show preview, and we have our range here being displayed. But if I click on submit, we get the volume 52. Now let's see how we can set a maximum and a minimum value. I'm gonna type here min, it's gonna be 1, and the max is going to be 100. So let's show preview. Right, so we have, let's set it to 100, and let's click submit. So let's click submit, and we have volume 100. So you can set a maximum and minimum value. You can also set a step. So I'm gonna type step, let's put 10. And now we're gonna slide the slider in steps of 10. So I'm gonna show preview, and I'm gonna move this, and as I am moving it, it's moved in steps of 10. So if I click on submit, now we have a multiple of 10. It should be 30, but because it's starting at the slider is starting at 1, we have 1 plus, so we have 30 plus 1, we have 31. This is why you don't have 30 there. So, and you can also set an initial value. I can type here value, let's put it to 15. Let's show preview, and it's set to 15. If I click submit, we get 11. So it should be 15. Why I got 11? Okay, change it to 20, but because, as I said, it's starting at 1, we have, let me see, submit, and we have 21. This is why we don't have 20, but the initial value is 20. All right, this is about the range. Now let's look at text area. Alright, so the text area is used to create an area of text. So if you look at text area, it's going to generate this window, and here you can type some text. Let's open Visual Studio Code, and I forgot to give a label to our input range. So let's type label for volume. Let's call it choose a volume. Let's show preview. And have choose a volume, so now it's working fine. Now let's look at text area. So I'm gonna type here text area. It's gonna have the name, let's say suggestions, not suggestions, let me call it problems. ID is gonna be problems, and this text area is gonna be filled with problems related to a website. Let's give it a name. Please submit your problem here. Let's create a label for problems, and it's gonna say describe your problem. Let's show preview. But let's put this in a different div. Let's show preview. And it says describe your problem. And now here I can type something, but let me show you how you can create, how you can increase the rows, the size of the rows and the size of the columns. And for that I'm gonna go inside text area and I'll type rows. So inside the rows. Let's start with columns. So let's go before the text. Let's type here rows. Let's put 40. As you can see now the rows increased. Let's put to 20. And let's also put columns. Let's put also 20 or 40. Now we have a bigger text area. Alright, this is our discussion about the range and text area, and I will end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome! In today's video, we're going to dive into CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is an essential tool you'll need to master, so let's get started. First off, what is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It's a style sheet language used to describe the presentation of a document written in HTML or XML. Essentially, CSS is what you use to make your web pages look good. It controls the layout of multiple web pages all at once. To understand how CSS works, let's take a quick look at a simple HTML document. Here we have a basic structure with a heading and a paragraph. Without CSS, this page would look quite plain, just black text on a white background. Now, let's introduce some CSS. CSS can be added to HTML in three ways: inline, internal, and external. Inline CSS. This is when you add CSS directly within the HTML tag using the style attribute. It's not recommended for larger projects because it makes your HTML messy and harder to maintain. Internal CSS. This method involves placing CSS within the style tags inside the head section of a HTML document. It's better than inline CSS, but it's still not the most efficient way for larger sites. External CSS. This is the preferred method for most projects. You write CSS in a separate file with a .css extension and link it to your HTML document using the link tag. This keeps your HTML clean and style centralized. In an external CSS file, you can define rules for how elements should look. For example, if you want all of your headings to be blue and centered, and your paragraphs to have a specific font and line spacing, you can write these rules in your CSS file. Here is a simple example. We have a H1 and we have color blue, text align center. With this CSS, every H1 element in your HTML file will be blue and center, and every paragraph element will be Arial font with a line height of 1.5. And when you refresh our browser, you can see the changes take effect. Our headings are now blue and center, and our paragraphs look more readable within the specified font and line spacing. CSS isn't just about colors and fonts, though it is incredibly powerful and allows you to control almost every aspect of a web page layout and design. For instance, you can use CSS for layout using properties like display, flexbox, and grid to control how elements are positioned on the page. Animations, adding transitions and keyframes animations to make your site interactive and engaging. You can have responsive design using media queries to ensure that your site looks good on all devices, from phones to tablets to desktops. For example, with CSS grid and flexbox, we're going to cover those later in the course, you can create complex layouts without relying on floats or other older techniques. Media queries help you to create a responsive design that adapts to different screen sizes. And here is a quick example of a media query. You have body, you have background color white, color black. Then you have media, and you have min width 600 pixels. And it is in this example, the background color and the text color will change when the screen width is 600 pixels or wider. CSS also has a concept of cascading and specificity. We're going to cover in more detail those later in the course, later in this section about CSS, which determines how styles are applied when there are conflicting rules. The order of your styles and the specificity of your selectors can affect how your styles are applied. And we have an example. We have a paragraph color red, and we have selectors here, but we're going to talk about selectors in future videos. Summary. CSS is a vast topic, but understanding this basics will give you a strong foundation to build on. Experiment with different properties, and soon you'll be creating beautiful and responsive website with ease. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to see the 3 different ways of adding style to all HTML documents that we talked in a previous video. And for that I'm going to create an index.html file. You can give it whatever name you want, but the standard is index. I'm going to create a boilerplate. I'm going to create an h1 with emmet. It's going to say hello world. And I'm going to create a button. You're going to say sign in. Now, the first way to add style, like we talked in the previous video, is the inline style. And the inline style is when you add directly to the elements the style. So I'm going to go inside the h1 tag, I'm going to type style, color, and let's say that I'm going to make this red. Now, let's do the same thing for the button. We type style, so you embed the style directly in the element, background color, and it's going to be blue. Now, if I show preview, now I have hello world in red and sign in blue. Now, the problem with this way of adding styles to HTML documents is that now if I want to create another button, so if I go down here, I'm going to create another button and it's going to say sign up. Now I need to duplicate this line of code and I need to paste it here. So let's copy this. Let's paste it here. And the problem with this approach is that if you have multiple buttons and you want to be consistent, you want to have them all the same color, it will be very hard to change the color for all the buttons individually, to add this line of code for all of them. So because of this reason, and if you have multiple pages, imagine that your site has multiple pages and you have those buttons in all the pages, you'll have to add individually the style to all the buttons directly. So this is not recommended. Another way to do this is to use internal style. So I'm gonna go here, we use the style tag, and I'm gonna create an h2 here. H2 is gonna say hello world, or it's gonna say, yeah, it's gonna say hello world. Another h2, hello world, and another h2, also hello world. Now I can type here, h2, and I can type here color red, and now all the h2 elements are gonna have the red color. So now if I show preview, we have hello. So this is better than the inline, because you don't go and add the color for each of them inline, embedded in the elements, but it's still problematic, because if you have multiple HTML documents, you'll have to you have to copy this style for all of them. So it has to duplicate this line of HTML code or CSS code. The next way is to create a separate, so we use external style, is to create a separate file to put, you put the style there, and we link that style to the HTML document. So let me show you how you can do that. So let's delete this. So you have no color now. Now I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna call it app.css, so it's very important to have CSS, and I'm gonna type here h2, color, let's say red. Now if I go here, index, now if I show preview, we get nothing. This is because we forgot something which is very important, and that is the link. So you type link, we press tab, and we have this this is standard style sheet, and here we need to specify in href, for the href attribute, the address of this style. So I'm going to type up the CSS, and now if I show preview, now we have hello world. And this is better because now in all the files that we're going to create, in all the pages that we're going to have, you just simply add this link, and you'll have all of your elements being styled using this this CSS file. This is going to style your elements, and you just include that in your file. You don't need to have duplicated like you have with the inline duplicated code. You don't need to you can essentially you can share the style now, because you can include that into your project. All right, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now it's time to look at some CSS properties that we can use on our elements, and later we're gonna start a discussion about we're gonna talk more about selectors. So you have a selector, you have curly braces, then you have the property and value, and in a more specific case, we have h1, or all h1 is going to have the color blue, and we're going to focus what's inside the curly braces, and we're going to focus on the color property in this video. So let's create some buttons here. Button, click me, 1. Another button, and the paragraph. And it's gonna have some lorem ipsum times 3. So gonna have all of this text. Now if I close this and I go in apps.css, I'm gonna select now the buttons. So I'm gonna type here button, so the selector, you select all buttons, and we're gonna have the color, let's say cyan, and we're gonna select the paragraph, so we're gonna put P, curly braces, and now we're gonna define the color, let's say aquamarine, and the color property only changes the text color, so it's gonna change the content of the element, but it's not gonna change the background color. For that we need to use the background color to change the background. Now if I show preview, you have hello world, the 2 buttons as you can see here, and the lorem ipsum text being displayed, and as you can see the color is changed. Alright, now let's look at background color. Let's go in app.css, and let's type here background color. Let's choose orange. For the button, let's type background color, let's type magenta, and here for a background color also let's say blue violet. Now if I show preview in index.html, so show preview, have hello world, and as you can see the whole line is colored because this is a block level element, so it takes all the space available. And as you can see the background color now is changed here, and also for the buttons the background color is changed because we use the background color now, not the color, which changes only the color of the text. And you can also use background, so I can change here from background color to background. Let's type background, not background color, just background, and this will work the same, but the background color and background are different. They are different in the sense that the background color only changes the background color, and with background you can change the background color, and you also can add the background image, so you can do more with the background, even though if it will do the same thing that the background color is doing, the background property. So let's show preview. Then we have hello world, click me, and we have Lorem, and we have the background color here set using the background property that we have here. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome to this tutorial on colors in CSS. Today, we'll be diving into two popular ways to define colors in your style sheets: RGB and hexadecimal. So what is RGB? RGB stands for red, green, and blue, and these are the three primary colors of light used in digital displays. In CSS, the RGB function allows you to specify a color by defining how much red, green, and blue should be mixed together to produce the desired color. Each of these colors can have a value between 0 and 255, where 0 means none of that color and 255 means full intensity of that color. For example, if you go here, let me go here, and if I type here RGB, parentheses, and I put 255, 0 and 0, that is gonna give a pure red color because it has full intensity of red and no green or blue. Similarly, if I change this to 0, 255, that gives you green, and RGB 0, 0, so 0 and 255, that gives you blue. You can mix these values to create any color you want. For example, RGB, let's say RGB 255, 165, and 0, that gives you orange. So this is how you can use RGB. You can also add an alpha value to control the opacity of the color by using RGBA, or RGB alpha. The alpha value ranges between 0, completely transparent, to 1, completely opaque. For example, RGB, let me show you RGB alpha. So I'm going to put an A there. 255, let's put here 0 and 0.5. That would give a semi-transparent red color. So this is what that is gonna do. Now, what is hexadecimal? Now let's move on hexadecimal color values, commonly known as hex colors. A hexadecimal color is a 6-digit code that represents a color in the RGB color space. Each pair of digits represents the intensity of red, green, and blue, respectively. Explanation of hexadecimal values. In hexadecimal, the digits range from 0 to 9, and then from A to F, where A is 10 and F is 15. For example, the hex color FF0000 represents pure red. So if I delete this, and let me copy this, let's put it here, not 2 times, only 1 time. So this is the hex color red using the hexadecimal format. It represents pure red, and just like RGB 25500. If I put this one, so let me copy this. If I put this here, that represents so pure green, and let me copy this. Let me delete this. That represents pure blue. Now, let's break down the color. Let me take this color. So let's break it down. Let's talk about what we have here. So let's break down this color. FF represents red, which is 255 in decimal. A5 represents green, which is 165 in decimal, and 00 represents blue, which is 0 in decimal. So FF, so hashtag or hash FF A500 gives you the color orange, just like RGB 255, 165, and 0. Hexadecimal value can also be shortened if the color components are the same. For example, if you have FFF, so let me show you. If I have this, I can shorten this simply 3 Fs. So, or if you have 00000, which is black, you can be shortened by hashtag 000. To sum up, both RGB and hexadecimal are just different ways of representing the same color information in CSS. RGB is often more intuitive when working directly with color mixing, while hexadecimal is shorter and widely used in web design. So this is the RGB and the hexadecimal colors. Alright, I'm gonna end this video here and I'll see you in the next video.